Hello and welcome to the Meathead Marksman channel. If you're new around here, my name's Hodge, and on this episode of The Quiet Rifle we are going to discuss a cheeky little tip that will allow you to find your muzzle velocity, that is to say how fast the bullet is going when it leaves your gun, without the use of a chronograph. But before we jump into the how-to, I think we should discuss the should you. Should you buy a chronograph? Well, yes, you should. If you are serious about your shooting and you know that you're going to be doing it for a while or you're doing it professionally, obviously you need a chronograph so that you know how fast your bullet is going. This method is an adequate substitute in some ways, but not so much in other ways. A chronograph measures bullet speed. That is all it does. Realistically, it measures how long it takes one item to move from one place to another and spits out a speed in feet per second or meters per second, whatever you prefer. But the method that we are about to discuss is going to take into account more than just what the bullet speed is. So it will give you a usable figure, but it won't be as accurate as a chronograph will be. So if you are serious about shooting, buy a proper chronograph. Which one should you buy? We'll discuss that later after we've gone through the how-to. Right then, on with the meat and potatoes of this video. For this little tip, you are going to need a ballistic app with a feature that allows you to true the algorithm that it generates from the data that you put in. You are also going to need an estimated bullet speed. So first of all, the app that I use is always Strelok Pro. It is amazing. It is unbelievable that it is as cheap as it is. You just download it for iPhone or Android from whichever app store you represent, and it'll cost you a couple of dollars for the professional version of it, and it's well worth it. It is just an excellent resource for trying all sorts of stuff. But importantly, it has a place where you can input all of your ballistic data from your particular chosen projectile, and it also has the function to allow you to shoot at two different distances and then add that information in, that real world information, to true the algorithm that it has generated for your ballistic data table. Second of all, you are going to need an estimated muzzle velocity. Now, if you have a look on the back of whatever, let's say you're using rimfire, look on the back of the box of 22 or whatever it is that you're shooting. Same with centerfire. There's usually a estimated muzzle velocity on the back. Now, it's probably not going to be accurate, but it is a good starting point. That muzzle velocity is usually out of a standard length barrel, say like a 22 or a 24 inch barrel perhaps. But some of them like to pump their numbers up by using a longer test barrel, so you never know, it might be a 26 or a 28 inch barrel or something very strange like that, and your gun might not be that same barrel length, and it might be different atmospheric conditions and all that jazz. But all that said, this is a good number to start with. And if you are shooting an air gun, usually on the manufacturer's page you're going to see a stat somewhere within the tabulated data that shows how fast it shoots pellets of relative weight. Even if your pellet is a different brand but a similar weight, it's probably going to be a good place to start. The next step is to actually input this data into whichever ballistic app you are using. So I'll show you how to do that now with Strelok Pro. So let's quickly talk about the different elements on screen when you open up Strelok Pro. Up the top, this first four boxes right up the top of the screen, those are your inputs for the shot that you are about to take once you have set the app up completely. So we won't worry about them too much right now. Below that we have your weather input. You can click on that and tell it all of the different weather elements so that your variables match the situation that you're shooting in. And don't forget that you have to scroll down and click OK. If you just click back on your phone, it won't record any of the changes that you make, so you must click OK. Then scroll back. Below the weather input you have your ballistic particulars. This is an important part, so here you can input your rifle, give it a name, call it whatever you want, and below that select your scope and whichever particular reticle that your scope has. There are thousands of scopes to choose from. There is a good chance that even if your scope is almost brand new to the market, that is to say, it's probably already in here. The list inside this app is that big. It's great. So click on that tab, go in there, and this is what you'll see. Set your zero distance up the top, your height over bore, your click values, and your scope type. And then scroll right down to the bottom and click OK. You must click OK before you back out of this one, otherwise it won't remember any of the details that you've put in there. And once you've done that, you're all good. It'll bring you back to this screen. Swing on down to the next box and input your ammunition details. So you can see in here, this is the one for my impact shooting on low power with the 34 grain JSBs. I've got my bullet speed, or my estimated bullet speed, in there, and all of my zeroing weather and all that sort of stuff. It's all in there. And down below zeroing weather, you can see zero offset. That's so that you can set up your turrets for more than one different projectile type at any given time. But we'll try and save all that technical stuff for another video. We'll try and stay on topic here. Once you've got that all sorted, right down the bottom, click OK, and then click back, slide in your twist rate in that next screen, and then scroll to the bottom of that one and click close. So now that we're all set up, it's time for us to do the deed and true the algorithm that it has generated. So the way we do this is we fire a group at close range, preferably the spot where you are zeroed at, which in this case is 25 meters, and then you are going to fire another group at a range that's further out. The further out, the better, but you want it to be a range that's as far away as you can get it, but still be consistent. So if you're going to zero something like a 22 and it's zeroed at 25 meters, 100 meters is probably far enough. Even 75 or 50 would probably be fine, but if you're shooting an extreme long range cartridge like a 6.5 or a 338 or something wild like that, you might have it zeroed at 200 meters, and your long range shot, your further out shot, should probably be like 500 or 600 meters away, if you can. If not, if you don't have the space, just use the most amount of space that you've got, that you can still shoot accurately and consistently. So now that we have the basic concept down, let's go for an example. Just to keep things small and manageable, we'll use my low powered setup, and our close distance group is going to be our zero group. So 25 meters, shoot a group, happy days, confirm your zero, kill two birds with one stone. And then we are going to go up to the top right hand corner, punch in 50 meters, go down to the calculate button, smash that bad boy, and it's given me a vertical change of 2 MRAD. So the bullet's going to lose 2 MRAD of elevation by the time it gets all the way out to 50 meters. We're going to adjust our turrets so that the turret represents that 2 MRAD, and then I'm going to aim at my target ranged out to 50 meters and print another group on that target at 50 meters. Then, once I've done that, I am going to look at it through my scope. Because I have a first focal plane scope, I can mill the reticle, I can measure the actual clicks at any magnification, super easy to do. But if you don't have that, you'll have to go down to the target and measure it manually. Once you have that measurement, we're going to go down to the bottom right hand corner of the front screen on Strelok Pro, where there is a little target with a trajectory icon drawn on it with a little blue up and down arrow, and we're going to click on that one. That brings you through to the trajectory validation screen. What we have here up the top is the option to decide what the validation is actually going to adjust, whether it is the speed or the ballistic coefficient. For shorter range stuff, you want to use speed, and for further out range stuff, you probably want to use BC, but that's probably a little bit more advanced, and we are going to stick to speed for today's sim. So you come down, and where it says current muzzle velocity is 711, and it gave us 1.98 MRAD, and we are basically going to say, let's say for example it was only 1.5 MRAD, so we'll enter 1.5 MRAD in that box, like so. Click done, and then click calculate. And as you can see, it's realized that it was about half an MRAD off, and it's bumped our velocity all the way up to 780 feet per second. You now have the option to click use this velocity. Remember that if you don't click use this velocity, it won't use that velocity. It will continue to use the current velocity as listed above the elevation change just there. But that's basically the way that you can get a very accurate estimate. It's not perfect, but it is an estimate that is very usable for you to use as your muzzle velocity. Now, the reason it's not as accurate as a chronograph is because this is taking real world conditions and generating a number that you should have generated in ideal conditions, right? So this number is for the conditions that you are in specifically right now. So your temperature, your elevation, your humidity, all of the weather aspects, they all come into play. The angle that you're shooting on comes into play to generate this number. Whereas if you were just shooting with a chronograph, all you're getting from the chronograph is the speed and maybe the very simple local weather conditions. It's a much more controlled measurement if you just use a chronograph. But if you don't have a chronograph and you need to get a number that's usable, quick, smart, this is probably the best way to do it. There are several other apps out there that measure speed through using the microphone and echoes and sounds, but that just seems all horrifically strange to me, and I think I will trust Boris's mathematical genius to give me a much better number. So with all of that said, if the time has come for you to buy a chronograph, the one that I use is the Caldwell Ballistic Precision, but it may not be the best one for you. It's probably not even the best one for me, quite frankly. It does the job, and it does a wide variety of sort of shooting. It can handle supersonic speeds, but it does have to be placed in front of the gun, and if you are shooting at a public range, this can be a bit of an issue at times, especially if you lend it to your mates. You just know one of those idiots are going to shoot it, and yeah, you're going to be in for a couple of $100 worth of bills. That one cost me about 350 Australian dollars, which is, I don't know, less everywhere else in the world. But there are other options as well. If you don't want to move forward of the mound, you can use a FX pocket chronograph, which is probably the most affordable option if you are shooting subsonic speeds. They don't really measure supersonic speeds very well, but you could also use something like what I've got, but an upgraded version. They come now with Bluetooth and all sorts of other stuff. Or you could go for something a little higher end, like the Magneto Speed, which will handle supersonic speeds without you having to step forwards of the firing line at any point. And last but not least, there is also the Lab Radar, which uses a Doppler radar, sort of similar to the FX pocket chronograph, only it has a few more things in its display. It can give you varying BCs, which is a very handy thing to have if you are shooting pellets, because with a pellet, for some stupid reason, the BC changes mid-flight because it's drag stabilized, which is a source of great pain and gnashing of teeth. But the Lab Radar can give you the numbers that you need if you wish to overcome that. So these all vary in price. I'll put the prices up on the screen as they scroll past, but those are the options that I would pick. Air guns only, I would say get the FX chronograph just for ease of use and simplicity and safety. But if you need to shoot everything from center fires right the way up, all the way back down to air guns, maybe go for something like the Lab Radar or the Magneto Speed if you are shooting in an area where there are lots of other people shooting, because I believe the Lab Radar is also activated by sound, so it will hear your rifle shot and take its reading, but it will also hear everybody else's rifle shot. So yeah, that could be an issue, but whatever. Happy shopping. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I hope it was helpful. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you around. Ta-ta.